Hello there, all of you amazing people, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are getting back into the Idaho Air Service Kodiak 100. And we are over in beautiful McCall, Idaho. I would just ask that you pardon the random jolts in the frame rates. I think it has something to do with my internet connection as we kind of walk around the airplane. It wasn't doing this earlier, so I don't really know what's up. Also ignore the fact that we're already sitting in the airplane, even though we're right here doing our walk around. So for today's flight, we're going to be taking this and this load of boxes that you see in front of us to a couple different bush strips through the mountains. First one we're going to go to is the Warren U.S.F.S airfield. Once we unload some cargo there, we're going to go to the Mackay Bar airstrip. And then finally, we're going to end it with the Dixie U.S.F.S airstrip up in the mountains as well. It's all going to be a pretty short hop for all of our flights, so there probably won't be any fancy outside shots for today's video. Oh, that was kind of cool. That might be our photo right there. So there probably won't be too many outside shots today just because I think one of the flights is legitimately 8 minutes when I just flew it. There's just not enough time to get everything configured and do some outside shots of the airplane. This will be the longest leg, and it is from McCall down to, I guess not down, we're going over to Warren. It'll be the longest at right about 20 minutes. So I'll put some timestamps down as we get to each of our airfields. That way if you don't want to sit and talk with me, you don't have to. So with that, we get our doors closed up, chocks are in, we'll remove those, but first we'll go ahead and hop in the airplane. And then like magic, we'll drop the Xbox controller, and we'll have the ground crew grab those once we shut the door. And let's go ahead and get this airplane fired up and on our way. So if you have seen my channel before, you'll know I have a Kodiak tutorial. If you want to know more about the startup procedures on this, I will slap that link, probably up here in the top right actually. And then you can learn kind of my process to fly in the Kodiak. I always do that. So doors latched, seats are locked, fuel's on, push the cutoff in. Let's just go ahead and get that trim push forward. We're at normal, idle, feather, and cutoff. Flaps are up. And looking down here, looks like all of our circuit breakers are good. Our bypass is on because we need it for later in the flight. So we'll want our beacon and our nav right away. So let's go ahead, flip on the master, and we'll shimmy over. Alright, I had to get the Xbox controller disconnected, because otherwise when we land, it'll just vibrate like crazy. So here we are, batteries at 25. ITT is showing 10. That should be cool enough. So with that, we'll go ahead, flip the aux pump to on. Ignition will go on as well. And once we turn our starter on, we're going to be looking at this gauge right here, the NG. We're looking for at least 14% before we introduce fuel. So we'll flip that to low motor. So we are going through 8. 10, 12, there's 14, so we'll bring that up to a low idle. And we'll also go ahead and bring in our propeller. Alright, so now we're just going to look for everything to stabilize. ITT jumped up, we stayed in the green the whole time. There's 54. And that's pretty stable, so we'll go ahead and get the generator, alternator on, close this window. Starter off, ignition off as well. And then I already have everything entered in, which let's get our avionics and our aux bus on. I already have everything we need entered in, so we're going to be taking off runway 16 out of McCall. That's the wrong direction. So we're going to take off runway 16. We're going to make a left-hand turn. We're going to fly through the mountains, do some zigzags. Come over here to Warren. We'll land. For all of our flights, we're going to unload hot, so we'll just drop down into low idle, feather the prop, just because I don't want to sit for 15-20 minutes each time to go ahead, let the engine cool down, refire it up, and take off for an 8-minute flight. So we'll make sure everyone's safe on the ground when at each airport as we unload. But we are going to do some hot unloading today. So first up's Warren. After that, we're going to the Mackay Bar, and then finally we're going over to land on runway 36 at the Dixie Forest Service strip. Then what we'll do is we'll come over into lean. We got about 400 pounds of fuel on each side, which should be right. 400, there's me. 200, 200, 200, 100, 150, 50, 75, and 200. So weight and balance is good. And with that, let's go ahead and just adjust this up to... We're not actually going to follow it, but we'll go ahead and set it up to 9,500. We probably won't even get that high. And then looking at our speeds, according to our Kodiak app, these are all still accurate at 97 for our glide, 60 for rotation. Our VX will be 74, which that's our takeoff configuration, stall speed times 1.3. And then 98 is our VY. We have a radar altitude minimum of 500. And transponder, we're already set to VFR and altitude. That is the VOR here in McCall, and then that's our GPS flight plan if we need it. So with that, let's go ahead and get flaps set to 20. They're down. And let's get the taxi lights on. Verified doors are shut, windows are shut. We are good to taxi out to the runway, which this is going to be a really long taxi. I mean, we're just going to have to flip around and pretty much already be at the runway. So let's go ahead, blast a bunch of FOD over there into the hangar on this turn. And look at that, I can already see the end of the runway. Then if you are familiar with my videos, you will know that we do not use the default air traffic control, so we are turned to Unicom. We are monitoring guard, and then we have our VORs already set up. I am just going to leave our bypass on, because we do have some clouds. When I did the flight going to and from, it didn't seem like visibility or clouds were an issue at the airfields, but now that a little bit of time has passed, you never know. Weather can always change. So let's go ahead and take a look. Final approach looks good over there. And it looks good over there, because winds are calm today. So we will go ahead and get our strobes turned on, landing lights up to pulse, and our pitot heats on, and we will line up on runway 16 for departure. Alright, and there's the 16 on the runway, so we have confirmed visually. We'll verify with the heading here in a second. We're looking for about a 166. There's 166, and we're pointing straight down the runway. Alright, so we're coming to a complete stop. Bring our fuel condition up to high idle. Verify trims are set. I want to push that down just a hair more because I like some nose down trim on this airplane. Lights are good. Transponder is set. Our landing lights are pulsing. Fuel pumps on. We are good for takeoff, so let's go ahead and set the timer. Alright, so airspeed's live. We're about to hit 50. There's a rotation speed, so let's go ahead and start pulling back. And then there's 74, so let's go ahead and pitch to maintain that for right now. I don't know why it's yelling at us. Go ahead and start speeding up a little bit because we are definitely clear of the terrain no matter what the airplane wants to tell us. I don't know why it's yelling at us, to be honest. Alright, so there's 85 knots, and we're coming up on 500 feet above the ground. We'll maintain 85 for just a little bit longer. There's 500, so we'll retract the flaps. Now we'll pitch for 95. There's 95.
Center Idaho Air November 596 Zulu Charlie is type 2 miles south of Kilo Mike Yankee Lima 5,700 feet. Request flight following.
Idaho Air November 596 Zulu Charlie, Salt Lake Center.
Alright, so there's 95 and 1,000, so we'll bring up that last notch of flaps. Go ahead and start banking for the direction we actually want to fly. Let's get that turned off. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot up this way and fly in to Warren. We're just having all kinds of issues this flight apparently.
Idaho Air November 596 Zulu Charlie, acknowledge last transmission.
But yeah, so what we're going to do here for this flight as we get kind of stabilized now, because I don't know why the AI ATC keeps turning on. I keep turning it off every flight. I turned it off the last flight. I landed, didn't even go back into the main menu. And then it just magically turned itself on. I don't know what that's about. So what we're going to do here is we're going to shoot straight up this way. So the direction we're going, and we're going to kind of curve through here and go into, actually not that way. So if we look over here at the map, there's us. This way, curve up, in, and do like this zigzag right here, and that'll line us up pretty well with the runway. Want to be right about 8,000 feet for this, so since we're flying VFR, we'll probably go up to 8,500. Well, actually, I guess we're going east, so we want to be at an odd number. We'll go 7,500 and just kind of follow the terrain. But now what we'll do is we'll work on bringing our prop back to 2,000 RPM. So what I've learned for 2,000 RPM in this airplane is if we just bring it back to about the bottom of the P here in prop, that usually gets us pretty close. Got some good turbulence right now, that's for sure. And then I did do a practice run of this flight just because I haven't flown this airplane in a while, and I definitely haven't flown it into some little dirt strips in a very long time. I think the last time I did that would have been the Hogsback, I don't know, I'll have to link it. I think it's the Hogsback Ranch video and then Cedar Mountain. I think that would have been the last time I really flew this airplane into any kind of small strip. It's been a long time. So it is nice to be back in the Kodiak. I love this airplane. It's, for the most part, what my channel started out as, is all Kodiak videos. So I decided to bring the airplane back. For all of our flights today, we're going to do our best to follow like fairly proper procedures for flying in the mountains. So we're going to stick to one side. That way if we need to make any evasive maneuvers to like avoid terrain, if another aircraft happens to pop up out here, we have the space to go ahead and make that kind of evasive maneuver. I don't know what the like real world procedure is for what side of the valley. Well, I guess I don't know. I don't know if you want to call this a valley, but what side of the mountain you should fly on. We're going to stick to American driving, where we kind of stick to the right-hand side. So just like in America, you drive on the right-hand side of the road. That's the way we're going to drive. That's the way we're going to fly today, at least. And we're pretty much just going to follow the terrain. But if you guys stick around for the whole video, that's awesome. This is actually a pretty fun little flight. I'd recommend it for all of you. If you want to do some bush flying, you could take out the Piper Comanche. You know, get your little Cubs or something. Maybe one of those cool Got Friends aircraft that I don't have. You could take out your Kodiak I love this thing. I would definitely highly recommend the Kodiak to just about anyone, which SWS is going to be making that new PC-12 soon. Maybe we'll have to have that PC-12 on this flight. Maybe it'd be a good benchmark flight for it. See what it can and can't do. Because the Mackay Bar, that's a tight airfield to get into, even in this thing. It makes me a little nervous to land there, so I was glad everything went pretty smooth on the first attempt. So there's two ways we could really go here. As we kind of curve around here, we're going to just stick it in this nice right-hand curve and then zigzag up this way. When I originally planned it, I planned to actually climb up to about 8,500 and just shoot through there. But I kind of like just following the terrain and doing that kind of flying. Just, it's a little bit more fun. It does take a little bit longer, but that's okay. I think we can survive through it. But it's a really beautiful area, actually. And as you can see, we're not having those weird choppy frame rates we had on the ground when I was doing the walk around, so I really don't know what that issue was about. So here's where we're going to begin our curve back through the mountains, and we'll probably go a little wide on this one, just to avoid the terrain. And you know what, I actually turned a little bit too soon. We wanted this one in front of us. So we'll just give it a little bit more speed, climb up over this ridge line. As you can tell, not super familiar with the area, but I even cheated and already flew this once. So you think I would know what I'm doing now. But apparently I don't. This is more familiar. This is the one we wanted. So now we're going to work on getting back down to 7,500 feet. Our cruise torque, what we're going to aim for is about 1140 or so. I'm not going to be super accurate because for the most part we're just flying, having a good time. This is not a tutorial flight, and I'm not looking to be super accurate in terms of the numbers, just looking to have fun and have you guys join me on some bush flying. And so what we're looking at here is we're going to kind of curve this way, come into this big open spot, and then we're going to bank back to the left. Oh, actually, no. So the green, we're going to bank through the green this way and up that way. I'm looking too big picture. There we go. It's because I put it in as a waypoint instead of one segment. I just did the whole flight in here, so now I'm confusing myself. So let's zoom in. There we go. That looks better. So yeah, so we're going to go straight. Then around here, we'll hook a nice left. Fly in. Get around to where that green opens up, and that should get us pretty much lined up with the runway for this first flight. But we'll come in at like a 90-degree angle to the runway. So it gets us right there on top of the airport, and also gives us a good way to actually like view the runway, make sure there's no airplanes on it, make sure there's no like bears, deer, moose, elk, whatever kind of animals actually exist out here in real life. But it's super pretty just flying through the mountains here. Like I said, I would highly recommend it. Maybe we'll have to take the PC-12 when it comes out through here. That'd be a little fun. But yeah, so we're going to shoot out this way and end up turning somewhere out there. And we're losing some altitude because I'm too busy talking instead of flying. So now we'll go ahead and start that left bank. Give it just a little bit more throttle. You know, at least we're only flying boxes. Boxes won't mind too much about the inconsistent altitude or the fact we kind of, I guess, just buzzed those trees there on that ridge line a while back because I made a wrong turn. People would care. Good thing boxes don't care. That's the motto of a cargo pilot, isn't it? So it looks like we're 11.4 miles from our airport. The ring on the center screen, and I don't know why I'm pointing with my finger. You guys can't see that. But the ring right here, that's 5 miles, so right about the edge here is probably our 10-mile area. So we should start seeing that runway pop up on the center screen here any second. And so what it looks like we'll do is we'll maintain straight until we get to about that ridge line right there, and then we'll hook a right. And it's real nice. You'll pretty much see a little valley, and we'll pretty much follow that valley down in valley, ridge line, whatever you want to call it. We'll follow that down to the runway. And the runway is going to be almost 90 degrees to the way we're coming in. So we'll overfly it, and then we'll hook a loop and do like a 270 to land. We are going to land to like the southeast just because of terrain. Usually I'd look, try and figure out what the best winds are. Is that right? Is that grammar? Yeah. Usually I'd try and check out land with the winds, but the terrain is more of a pressing issue than the winds, and it's just safer to land to the southeast, because if we look right here, you can see we got this big open gap to turn around versus it's much more narrow in this area. So if we wanted to land this way, it's just nicer to land to the southeast. So pretty much come in just like that, do a loop, and land. Then if there's any real world Kodiak pilots that are in here, would you guys ever like actually unload or load the aircraft with the propeller still turning? Is that something, I guess I don't think there's anything that says you can't do it, but I guess would you is more of the question. You know, it's one of those, you can do it, but that doesn't mean you should. For us, this is just a simulator and a game, so we can bend some rules. But in the real world, if you're out there watching at this point, is that something you'd actually do? I'm curious to know. So now we're about 6 miles out, and we're coming up on our right-hand turn. And it is much more turbulent this go-around than it was last time. So then there's kind of that ridgeline valley, whatever you want to call it, that leads down into the airport. Get this pesky mouse out of here. And so now I'll also go ahead and start slowing up the airplane as we make our right-hand turn to land. And then right in front of us, right there is the valley ridge line, whatever you want to call it, that leads us down to the airport. We should start to see it in a second. And now we also want to start descending for the airfield. And now that we brought our torque back enough, I'm going to bring in that propeller to full. And we can both see on the torque, and we can hear it audibly that it did change. And now let's go ahead and adjust our trim so we don't got to work so hard. Even though my altitude management was not very good. So what we'll do is we're actually going to go ahead and hook a little bit of a right pop out right in. So we're going to aim to fly right over this spot right here. That way we can get a good look at the airfield before we make our turn to land. Then let me just zoom out just a hair. There we go. So airfield's right behind our A-pillar right now. You can kind of just barely make out the gravel strip beyond the trees. And there's 121, so we are good to drop our first notch of flaps, but we're going to wait till we get a better look at the airport, make sure everything's good to go. Alright, and so right there coming out the trees at the bottom, that is where our airport is. Actually, it's right underneath us. I can see it. But I've also already flown here. It's right there. There's a runway. I came out a little bit too far to the left, but that's okay. We'll make it work. So we got our first notch of flaps in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a loop, and we're going to pretty much turn to come this way back down around to land. So at 103, I'll just kind of maintain that for right now. Give it just a little bit more power. I'll go ahead and give it that second notch of flaps. Let's give it just a little bit of nose down trim. I think that would help us out a lot. So the runway is going to be right about where our wingtip is. You can kind of start to see it now. For realsies this time, not made up like last time where I thought I could see it. And I see the runway, it's looking pretty clear, so we're going to go ahead and give that final notch of flaps because we're under 108 knots. Let's start bringing power back. We're going to look for about 74-ish for our final speed. There's the runway, looks clear down the middle. Alright, so we just passed our minimums. Runway's clear, weather's good, we got a good visual, and we're pretty stable on the approach, so we did decide to continue. About 300 feet above the ground right now, 70 knots, so we'll give it just a little bit more throttle. Winds are calm, which is real nice. And just like that, we are on the ground, and it's almost like we knew what we were doing. So then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pull in near this caravan. I think right here is a good spot to hook a left. That was too hard on the brakes. And we'll stop right there. Go ahead, set the parking brake so we don't roll forward. Is that set? Yeah, it was. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and bring the fuel condition back to low idle. We'll go ahead and feather the prop. And we'll leave the ice lights on. We'll leave the landing lights on pulse. We'll turn off the strobes though. We'll get the aux bucks off. And I think we'll need the fuel pump on still. Yep. Fuel pump on. We're just going to reset that to show our time on the ground idling. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and do a hot unload. So I'm going to stop the video and I will talk to you guys once we get the aircraft unloaded. Okay, so it only took about 6 minutes for the ground crew to get everything offloaded. And now that they have cleared, we'll go ahead and just reset up our takeoff trim for our elevator. Go ahead and just bring that propeller up because everyone's clear of the area. And we'll let that get spun up. And let's see, we'll get the aux bus turned back on just to keep things nice in here. Pitot heat's on, landing lights, all that good. So for our takeoff, we're actually going to take off the opposite direction of what we landed. So we're going to go that way for takeoff, and then we're going to make a right and fly up the valley, which I'll kind of show you guys what we're going to do. Just going to take off, fly this way, pretty much go along with the river, and then we'll pop out pretty much right on top of the airport, hook a right, and land this way. That is the game plan. This flight should only take about 10 minutes, if that. So since we are ready for takeoff, we're going to go ahead and bring the condition lever back up to maximum. Take the parking brake off and get ourselves rolling. We are clear of that Cessna. Things looking good that way. We're going to come out here over to the road just to give us a little bit more room to make a right-hand turn, because I'd like as much runway as possible. And we'll bring flaps up to 20 from 30. Looking good on those trees in this house. And then for this takeoff, what we're going to do is we're going to hold the brakes until we have our takeoff thrust set. Once that is set, we will release the brakes. Then what we're going to do is we're going to hit our rotation speed of 60. We're going to pitch for 74 knots. We'll maintain 74 knots right up until about 500 feet. Then we'll speed up to 85, remove the first notch of flaps, go up to 95, clean up the airplane, then 115, and about that time we're going to be ready to land. So we're not going to bother messing with the RPM pitch, just because this is such a short flight. So we are lined up, ready for takeoff. We're going to go ahead, hit enter, start that timer. Now we're going to go ahead and set our takeoff power. Which for this, we're going to hit the maximum on the NG before we hit the maximum for the torque. So now we'll let off the brakes. Give it some right rudder. And we're rolling. There's 40 knots. 50. And we're coming up on 60, so we'll pull back. Then we're looking for 74, which is right there, so we'll go ahead and pitch up. Try and maintain that the best we can. Let's get ourselves some trim, that'll help. There's 300 feet above the ground. And then there's 400. There's 500. So go ahead, lower the nose. We're looking for 85 now. So make this climbing right-hand turn. There's 85, so first notch of flaps coming up. And then there's 95. So now we'll clean up the airplane. And we're actually going to start reducing from our takeoff power, because we don't want to climb too much higher, because we're going to have to descend. So we'll probably just maintain this about 107 to 115 until we get to 7,500 feet. Which is pretty much as soon as we turn around this mountain on our right, we're going to start our descent to land at Mackay Bar. Which Mackay Bar is the shortest strip at just over 1,600 feet. And pretty much right on both sides of the runway there's a little hill, and it's on a curve no matter which side you come in through. So it is a tough strip to land at, especially in this large of an aircraft. I know it can be done. So we're going to see if we can do it without, I guess, killing ourselves. That's always a good way to do it. And so as you can see, we're pretty much going to curve right around this way, pop out right at the airport. So then we just got to flip around to face north. So then as we come around the top here, we're going to reduce power so we don't speed up too much. Just maintain this right-hand curve. Just some real nice short mountain flying. That is what I like. It's actually really fun just to hand fly it, you know. We really didn't even need to set up the flight plan at all, but it's just nice to have a guide, and then I can kind of show you guys what I'm thinking in my mind. But you know, we don't got to worry about autopilot, don't really got to worry about any of that stuff, just some manual hand flying through the hills. It's a real good time. So right now we're 3 minutes and 45 seconds into this flight, and we're already about 7 miles out. So like I said, this is short, the next flight is even shorter, which this is why I want to do the hot unloading and loading of the aircraft, just because we would legitimately spend more time on the ground waiting for the engine to cool than we would spend flying on these legs. Which isn't that fun, honestly. Which this might be fun to take the PC-12 when SWS releases it on. This, I don't know what kind of strips the PC-12 can get into, but this might be a good test for it. It's definitely fun flying. You know, the PC-12 is supposed to be pretty versatile. Versatile. Whatever. Words are hard. So, maybe you can get into this small strip here. I don't know how much I'm going to like doing that, because doing this in the Kodiak makes me nervous. So what I am going to do is I'm going to zoom in this terrain map to right there will be good. So I'm probably going to leave us right here about 5,000 feet, just because I know we need to turn around to get into this field. So we will work on slowing up and leveling off. We'll hit the magic B button to check our altimeter. Then right now we're about 2 miles out from the airport, which the airport's going to be pretty much right off our nose. Right here is about where the airport is. We legitimately pop out right on top of it. So once we clear this ridge line that's going over this pillar right here, we're going to hook a right, try and see the airport off to our left as we turn right and level off. That way we can verify the runway's clear. And once again, we need to start working on slowing up. I just want to watch out for this mountain. And runway's right there, that little grass strip. It's the gravel right next to the field. That's where we're landed. And it looked good from here, so now we'll just kind of hook a harder right. And we'll aim to turn around in this big open area. So we're at 118, we'll go ahead and give it flaps 1. Work on slowing to about 108, and then we'll give it flaps 2 as we turn around to the left. Alright, and now we'll give it flaps 2 as we hook this hard left-hand turn. And we just need to make sure we watch our airspeed, which is dropping pretty fast. We're down at 83. So there's where we want to land. Everything's looking pretty decent right now. I don't see anything on the runway, but we're still kind of high and pretty far out. So we're under 108, so we'll go ahead and give it that final notch of flaps, because I'm pretty sure we're going to land. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of follow this dirt road till we clear the trees, hook it right, then hook it back to the left in that opening there right before the runway. So now it starts slowing up as we bring it in. And now you can see why this still makes me nervous landing in the Kodiak. I know it's 1,600 feet, which is plenty of runway, but it doesn't feel like it at the same time. So looks like we do have a slight crosswind.
500.
So we're going to clear the trees. And we're at 73 knots, which is good. So now go ahead and start hooking it to the left. Watch out for those trees. And flare. Definitely not my best landing, but we made it. That's all that matters. We made it, and we can reuse the airplane. So now what we'll do is we'll come down here to the end. That way we can get the airplane offloaded, but we'll go ahead and bring that down to a low idle. And look at that, we're at 9 minutes and 13 seconds. So go ahead, stop and reset that. And this is really fun. It makes me kind of nervous, but it's really fun. I would recommend you guys give it a try. Also, all of these airports you will be able to find down in the description below. I've got them off the flightsim.to like normal. And I'll put a link to them down in the description. You just got to scroll beneath everything else. We're going to go ahead and ignore these people. And they're standing in terrible spots. We're going to just look away and not see the train wreck that just occurred as we continued forward. Going to just watch out for this windsock. And look at that. There's no people on our way. These guys are actually going to take most of our cargo off of our hands, which will make taking off out of here very nice. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead, turn right about here, and we'll come to a stop. Now we'll set the parking brake. We'll leave everything on again because this is going to be a hot unload. Let's go ahead, bring that prop all the way back to feather. Bring the flaps up to 20, and then just to save some electrical power, we'll turn off the aux bus. So just like before, I'm going to go ahead, hop out, make sure no one walks into this propeller, and then I will talk to you guys when we're ready to head off on our final leg. Alright, so it took a little bit longer to unload. We're looking right about 8 minutes. Let's see, I don't think we shut that rear door, did we? Nope, still open. There we go, now it's closed. Alright, so we got the airplane all buttoned up. Go ahead, stop that timer, reset. Get our trim reset. Flaps are 20. Go ahead, get our prop back up. Then we'll be taking off momentarily, so we'll go ahead and bring the fuel condition all the way up again. Aux bus can come on. Strobes can go back on. Which I just realized we never turned those on for the last flight. Oops, my bad. Then for takeoff, what we're going to do is we're going to turn around up here. We're going to take off that way. So we're going to go down the valley here just a little bit. Somewhere about right here in the valley, there's going to be a spot where we can climb up between two ridge lines and pretty much come out right at our runway for landing. This will be a pretty short flight. So let's go ahead and take off the brakes. And then we just want to not look at the tragic accident that is about to occur over here, because these rampies are for whatever reason out here in the middle of nowhere, Idaho. And we are not taking out that Piper. I guess it's probably a Carbon Cub actually, not a Piper. So there we go. We cleared the Piper. Hopefully we avoided a tragic accident with those rampies out here in the middle of nowhere. we clear that post. We're going to come around to right about here and hook a hard right. And let's see, where's our runway? So we're going to do a little bit of a curve here on the takeoff roll. And just like last time, we will go ahead, set takeoff thrust. Then we will release our brakes. Go ahead, hit start. Also for our climb up, gonna do just like last time, maintain 74 till about 500 feet, then 85 up to 1,000, so on. Just like we did last time. So takeoff power coming in. And we should hit the NG limit before we hit the torque limit. Which we're going to stop right there. Release the brakes. Start curving to the right. Airspeed's alive. And we're looking for 60. There's 40. 50. And 60. So let's bring it back. Right rudder. Want to make sure we clear the trees, but let's get some airspeed coming in. We're looking for 74 as we curve to the right. There's 74. So now we'll keep it to the right just to maintain some good mountain flying. There's 500 feet, so we're going to go ahead and start lowering it down to get to 85.
500. 500.
So there's 85. So go ahead, remove 1 notch flaps. And then at 95 and roughly 1,000, we will go ahead and clean up the airplane. So there's 95. Airplane's cleaned up. Just because we need to climb, we'll go ahead and keep power pretty high. But we will start working our way towards 115, and this should be where we want to turn. Yeah, this should be our turn. Keyword is should be. Just make sure we keep good power and good speed. We're 6 miles out from the airport. Yeah. So we're still looking for about 115 on the speed, but if we need to gain more altitude, we will gain more altitude. What we should see here on the center screen is we should see this start opening up, and you'll pretty much see it line us up directly with the runway right here. So now we are 2 minutes and 50 something, now 3 minutes into the flight, and we're almost to the runway. We are already 5.1 miles out. We'll say leaving the strip we just left, it helps out that they took most of our cargo. I think we're only hauling about 300 or 400 pounds into this one. And then what's really fun, this runway I think is like 4,000 feet long. So when we leave here empty going back to McCall, we're pretty much a little rocket ship. We can get out of here real fast, which is fun. We will not be doing that flight on video today, just because I've already done it, and this video is probably already going to be about 30-40 minutes long. So I'm not going to bore you with that one, because this is all the fun stuff anyway, doing this mountain flying. This is the fun part of the video that you guys get to watch. I'm sure some of you are going to wish there were outside shots, but these flights are just too short for me to try and manually fly through the mountains and get you some cool outside views. Because I don't know if there's a way you can do like an instant replay to capture everything in the flight. Maybe there is, I'm not sure. But I do everything live. I record it, film it, everything, inside, outside, talking, landing, all of that I do at the same time that I fly the airplane. So It's only so much I can do until I figure out a better way. But right now I don't have that because I only have 2 screens. Well, not 2 screens. I have a screen. I have a really big screen though. It's 32 inches. But if I had more than 1 screen, maybe I could do that. But as we come across the top of this ridgeline, we will see the airport, and we should be just about lined up with the runway. And there it is, so we're going to reduce power. And we're under 138, so we'll drop in flaps 1. Then runway is clear, we're below 108, so there goes flaps 2. And there's well under 108, so there is our final notch of flaps. We're going to be looking for about 74 for our speed that we want to maintain. Let's give it some nose up trim. Runway is clear, so we are good to land. And we're starting to slope just a little, but that's okay. And then we got all day to put this bad boy down. And there you have it. We're on the ground here at Dixie. And we got some more rampies here. I guess they didn't get the memo about what happened to the last ones. I don't know why they're out here in the middle of nowhere. So we'll clean up the aircraft. And this time we are going to shut her down. But we're not going to go all the way. I guess we could go over to these rampies. I don't know if I could hook that tight of a turn in this thing. I probably can, but I feel like we're going to take out that guy on the tug. Because I don't want to go too much further to the right because we do got our struts. Well, it's going to be a tight turn, lady. Tried to tell her. But we made it, so parking brake is set. We'll go ahead and bring that to low idle. We'll kill all of our lights because we don't need them now. Because we will shut it down. Go ahead and get this prop brought back first though. That way we can start our time for letting the engine cool down. So now we'll let the engine cool down. Beacon stays on, strobe goes off. Taxi, landing light, cabin, good. Ice lights can go off, bypass stays on. Alton generator can go off, aux bus can go off, avionics can go off as well. So now we'll just wait till we hit the 1 minute mark. That way the engine had time to cool down. And we'll get the remainder of the cargo, but look at that. There's like nothing left in here. We started out pretty full, and now there's just a couple of boxes left that'll do some people some good once they get it. Got 20 seconds left on the wait. We'll go ahead and unlock our seat. If I can do it without moving that sun visor would be nice. Come on. I guess we're... There we go. Yes, we are moving the sun visor. Get away, sun visor. And there's 59 and 60, so we'll go ahead and bring that fuel condition lever back. We'll open up the windows and the doors. Fuel pump can go off. Beacon and nav can go off. And we'll kill the power switch because I don't want to listen to that. Let's go ahead and bring out the pushback toolbar. Get the cargo door open. And I will see you guys once we get the aircraft unloaded. Okay, so we got the aircraft all unloaded. And it looks like we're going to be here for a minute. So we did get camp set up. And you see we got our little furry friend. We got our tent, our backpack, and our chairs. And now we just get to enjoy this nice view. And eventually we'll head back over into the populated portion of Idaho. But right now we'll just enjoy our time out here. And until next time, we will talk to you later. Thanks for watching.